June of 2016, a school in Lagos fell into the water. No students were inside. But 3 months earlier, the very same building had won one of architecture's highest honors in Venice. How does a building win the world's applause and then sink within a year? And what did the people who built it learn on the way down? To understand it, you have to see Makoko. It's a community built entirely on water at the edge of Lagos, in the shadow of the third mainland bridge. Some estimates put as many as 250,000 people here, in houses on stilts, moving by canoe. The land underneath doesn't really exist, and the government, for years, treated Makoko as if it shouldn't either. In July of 2012, bulldozers arrived to clear parts of the waterfront. In the chaos, a community leader was shot dead. So the problem was brutally simple. On land you cannot own, under a government that wants you gone, on water that rises every year, how do you build a school that lasts? A concrete building needs solid ground Makoko doesn't have. A Nigerian architect named Kunle Ademi thought the answer was to stop fighting the water. His firm, Enle, asked a different question. What if the school didn't stand on the lagoon? What if it floated on it? The design was almost defiantly humble. A 3-story timber A-frame, its wide base sitting on a raft of 256 empty plastic barrels. Local wood, local carpenters. A shape that shrugs off wind and rides the tide instead of resisting it. When it opened in 2013, it was extraordinary to stand inside. An open classroom that swayed gently, a breeze off the lagoon where a concrete box would have baked. For a while, it held a nursery and a community space, painted in the greens and blues of the water around it. The world noticed. It traveled to the Venice Architecture Biennale, and in 2016 won a Silver Lion. It became a symbol, the poster child for climate-resilient design in the global south. And here is where the honest story diverges from the headline. Back in Lagos, the original structure had been used less and less. Maintenance lagged, and in early June 2016, after heavy rain, it gave way and collapsed into the lagoon. So let's answer the tempting question directly. Did this floating school produce 5 years of literacy data that beat the mainlands? No, it couldn't. The building didn't survive long enough as a working school to measure that, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling a myth. That's the trap solutions journalism has to avoid. The prototype was fragile, praised abroad faster than it was proven at home. If the story ended here, it would just be a cautionary tale about hype. But it doesn't end here, and this is the part worth staying for. Ademi's team didn't defend the failure. They redesigned around it. The first school was a one-off you had to build in place. Its successor, they called it the Makoko floating system, became a kit. Standardized, prefabricated timber parts, bolted together, not improvised. Designed so anyone, anywhere on water, could raise one and take it down again. That version traveled and actually stood. A second iteration returned to Venice in 2016. Another rose over a canal in Bruges, Belgium, in 2018. The idea that failed as a single building succeeded as a repeatable design. And that reframes the whole outcome. The real deliverable was never one perfect schoolhouse. It was the proof that resilient infrastructure for a flooding world can be light, local, repairable, and honest about needing upkeep. Because the lesson of the collapse is not that floating fails. It's that a prototype without maintenance, ownership, and local stewardship will fail on land or water. Concrete schools collapse too when no one tends them. So what's actually possible now is more grounded and more useful than the dream we started with. Not a miracle building that outscores the mainland, but a design language for the roughly billion people expected to live in vulnerable coastal and flood-prone settlements by mid-century. A school you can build with local hands, float above a rising tide, repair when it wears, and copy down the coast. That's not the fairy tale. It's better because it's true and it's buildable. I've put the full breakdown in the description, the real timeline, the design files, the collapse report, and where these floating systems stand today. If you want the evidence behind the story rather than the myth, that's where to go next.